Well, the crime boss, Hillary Rodham Clinton, came out today and said that we should judge basically everybody, not just Donald Trump, off of what they originally actually said and basically did. That we should go off somebody's original record. Here's the clip.
In recent weeks, he's tried to restrain himself and clean up his image. But as Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
So she's demonizing Donald Trump because he questioned Barack Obama's birth certificate and the fact that Barack Obama, when he was the editor of the Harvard Law Review, said in his bio that he was born in Kenya. But Trump said, okay, hey, you were born in America, let's just move on. But since Hillary brought up the past, let's look at the past. Let's look at what she originally said, what she originally did. In her college thesis, she was a pen pal with Saul Alinsky, who wrote Rules for Radicals, who was an admitted communist and basically one of the ideological leaders of the Weathermen, who, of course, were also advisors to Obama. And he pledged his book to Lucifer. And he talked about deceiving the public, overthrowing America, going after Christians, creating basically a hell on earth. And there was sweet little Hillary being groomed all along and pen pals with him and writing her thesis on how wonderful Saul Alinsky was. After college, Hillary went on to represent child molesters in court and, made jokes about how she couldn't believe guilty people could pass lie detector tests.
He was one of these ruthless folks who wasn't going to make a living on the land, and he was kind of around. Ended up in Springdale working in the place over there. Of course, he claimed that he did all this stuff. He took a lie detector test. I had to polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs.
Then she got thrown off of the Watergate investigative committee because she was caught fabricating evidence against Richard Nixon. I mean, this girl was involved in the dirtiest of the dirt from the moment she got out of the gate. Then she hitched her wagon to William Jefferson Clinton, and her star began to rise. Oh, there were cattle future scams and swindling old folks out of their property in Arkansas with whitewater deals. There were CIA airfields at Mena and cocaine admittedly being flown in, and the Clintons overseeing the whole operation. There were over 100 murders, now known as Arkancide, where enemies of the Clintons were killed. But don't worry, the Arkansas medical examiner, Fahmy Malek, said it's totally normal to chop your arms, your legs, and your head off in a suicide. But once Hillary Clinton became co-president in 1993, the horror only intensified. She launched wars against the Serbs to bring in jihad armies out of Albania. She bombed TV stations with depleted uranium and bragged that she's the one that got Clinton to go ahead and pull the trigger. She supported the most incredible sanctions, basically doubling what George Herbert Walker Bush had done, even stopping shipments of food into Iraq. And over 500,000 children died. But her own Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, her confidant, her mentor, told 60 Minutes that it was a good price to pay 500,000 dead kids.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
Now, if I try to chronicle all the crimes committed by the Clintons when they were in the White House for 8 years, we'll be here for 10 hours. So let me just skip past all the stuff that happened, and Monica Lewinsky and the Chinese generals in the White House, and our missile secrets being transferred to the communist Chinese, and national sovereignty being sold out, and our jobs being sold out with NAFTA and GATT, and how the Clintons engineered getting rid of the Glass-Steagall Act to allow big mega banks to create all this counterfeit money and derivatives. Let's just forget about all that. Let's fast forward to what they've been doing in the last decade. Launching their big giant foundation, and we have the emails where she sold access to the Chinese president, where she sold access through the State Department to change U.S. policy if donors would give her money.
Phone calls to Huma Abedin and to other people in the State Department from donors to the Clinton Foundation asking for meetings, asking for access. True or false?
First of all, there's no question there were phone calls made to get appointments for people, but Muhammad Yunus, a Nobel laureate, Melinda Gates. I mean, these are people that any Secretary of State would have seen, courtesy appointments and others.
Business people.
There were also business people. There's no question about that. But
and then we learn, thanks to all the different hacked emails, which she admits are real, that she sent people dressed as Bernie Sanders supporters to attack Trump rallies so she could blame both Trump and Sanders. Then she stole the nomination. And even CNN and the Associated Press admitted that it was the super PACs, it was the big donors, it was the super delegates who actually decided who would be the nominee. And now that she's stolen the nomination, she's eyeing stealing the general election because she's way behind even in these polls. Even in places like D.C., where she was 20-something points ahead of Trump, she's only a few points ahead of him now. She's in free fall. So the big question is, this woman that tells us, look at what somebody said first, look at what they did first, look at their record.
But as Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Before we start celebrating the fact that Hillary Clinton is in free fall and that the mainstream media has been totally discredited trying to cover up her collapse in New York on 9/11, before we celebrate that, you have to understand, the crime syndicate behind Hillary isn't going to give up power easily. They know nationalism is rising in Russia and with the Brexit and with what's happening now here in the United States with Donald Trump. So they're throwing everything they can against Trump and the nationalist movement. False flags, race riots, you name it. George Soros is turning up the heat. The Ford Foundation just gave $100 million to Black Lives Matter. This is the time for vigilance. This is the time to be focused. This is the time to be praying that this republic be restored. But with Hillary, we see this sickening bloodlust, this bloodthirst, where she brags about creating a failed state in Libya and coming and seeing and Gaddafi dying and then organizing al-Qaeda to then become ISIS and invade Syria and target Christians and then not let them get out of the country, but bring the actual Sunni invaders into the United States. The truth is, Hillary Clinton wants to mount America's head on the wall. Hillary Clinton wants to dominate this republic. Hillary Clinton is an enemy, a domestic enemy, and an agent of globalism. And if this republic is to survive, Hillary Clinton must fall. The good news is, Providence has always shown that when the people take action, do the right thing, and take those first steps, God will carry us historically the rest of the way. And the hand of doom, as we see her deteriorate on a daily basis, has already reached Hillary Rodham Clinton. This is the heart of 1776.